Right before I got in trouble, I called my mom on Thanksgiving, and she didn't want to talk to me anymore. She said, "You're not the child that I gave birth to." You know, I'd been consumed with drugs. It was crazy. I called my mom again. It was a Christmas Eve, same conversation, same thing. She hung up on me. About 4 days later, I got incarcerated.
All right, Slim. So obviously you've seen a lot of success in business, running multiple businesses, biggest ones being Carter Creek Gardens, Carter Creek Labs. I'm very interested to see, what it was like growing up for you and, any pivotal moments in your childhood, because it takes something special to be so successful, right? And so I'm very interested to see what your childhood was like and how it formed you to be this successful entrepreneur and multiple business owner.
Man, that's crazy. Crazy you asked me that. So, I'm a man of faith, and I've been through several things in my life. I've had to climb a lot of mountains, and I've been through a lot of low places in life. And basically, when I was a child, the devil came after me early. So I actually suffered abuse as a child, not from a family member, but from a local person in the neighborhood. So the devil went after me at an early age, 11 years old. And, next thing you know, my best friend, who I'm running around with, his dad is probably was one of the biggest outlaws in United States history. Well, he had this great idea that he'd have us grow marijuana for him, and that way with the feds come in, we would be in trouble. We were just kids. He wouldn't go to federal prison. So, after that abuse happened to me, I was a pretty vulnerable kid, if that makes sense. And so I was, I jumped off out there in the middle of that and growing marijuana. And at the time, it was a big taboo. It was big time illegal. We were actually minors doing it for keeping adults out of prison. That my best friend's dad, and then we did that for several years. And I actually got arrested at 16 years old. Spent my 16th birthday in jail for marijuana. So it was, cannabis has been part of my life since I was early childhood on, and today it's a totally different market. We're not in doing outlaw things anymore to survive. We're in the legal market making medicine now, which is what we had back then. I didn't realize it. 30 years ago, I thought it was a drug and something cool, and it was it was just part of being an outlaw. But as I get older and physical ailments hit on me, and then the cannabis starts becoming legal in all these different states, then I'm able to understand the medicinal purposes of it and the value of it. And so that's what we do.
Yeah. So location wise, where did you grow up, and how did you get pulled into that from your best friend's dad?
Okay, so I grew up in Idabel, Oklahoma, a little small town here in McCurtain County, southeast Oklahoma. And, where I'm at, there was only a couple of sources of income. You either worked at the paper mill or the logging woods, or you raised cattle and grew marijuana. And I was a guy that raised cattle and grew marijuana. That was my niche, so to speak. And our area is small, so there's, the closest airport's Dallas, and that's like 2.5-hour drive away. So we're in such a desolate part of the United States. It's a different area. We're always the last ones to find out about new technology and things like that also.
Yeah. So you said you got pulled into the devil early. So what did that look like? Can you go into more detail on that
Yeah.
in your childhood?
Yeah, so if there's going to be somebody that God's going to use for his kingdom to do something good, the farther somebody gets pulled back in life when they're young, the more the devil comes after them. Maybe they come from the hood, but their mama was a heroin addict and they were slinging drugs at the age of 12 to survive because their mama was over there with the needle in her arm. Doesn't matter. It's always what happens is the person, when the devil comes after as a youth and starts trying to tear him down, he's trying to stop him because he already knows what God has predestined for that guy. And as long as we can survive that fight, and then through the course of our life understand the difference between right and wrong, good and evil, and we can find Jesus in our life, that's a whole different ball game. And when we get to that point, life is, a whole lot more easier, because you don't have to force anything to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like a crazy guide for life.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Bible, the word, and it's just like, it's the guide for life and like
Yeah,
the guide
so,
for good.
we're kind of in a dark time in our world right now where everybody is doing what's immoral. Where our moral values have been greatly degraded over the last couple of generations. I can remember when I was your age, the things that are legal and things that are happening now, I would tell you were crazy. They'd never happened, or, but it's here and it's happening. So, there's always been this fight for good and evil, right and wrong, and in how people understand their spiritual life. It's a lot of people get caught up with religious practices that are man-made doctrines, and then they fight and kill each other over it. It makes no sense. That's, majority of all the wars that are happening across the world right now is because of how somebody perceives their own spirituality, or they're trying to honor a religion, like, it may be a Christian against a Muslim, or a Muslim against a Christian, or it could be Muslim against a Buddhist, or Buddhist against them, or a Judaist. It doesn't matter. It's because they all perceive and understand things a little different, but they get mad at each other, want to fight because they don't see it the same way. That's kind of a problem with religion. If it's not really the word of God, if it's the word of man, it really doesn't mean that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the point of like that transition towards like good, towards God? Because like, I mean, I know like in your backstory, you had some drug problems, you went to jail and stuff like that. So like, what was that transition period? Like, where were your parents maybe? Like, what was kind of like your...
So I moved out when I was 16 and kind of run away from home basically. And I moved to I guess what you call the hood or the ghetto or whatever. And I started selling dope, and I got involved with methamphetamines when I was about 16 years old. And then that's where my life went spiraling out of control. I left my home for mom and dad, and they chased me around, tried to find me everywhere, but I eluded them. And, that went on for several years, and I actually got busted by the Oklahoma OSBI back in 2001, and I got a 7-year sentence for manufacturing methamphetamine. And that was the start of me getting my life right. So, at that time, I can remember I called my mom on Thanksgiving, right before I got in trouble. I called my mom on Thanksgiving, and she didn't want to talk to me anymore. She said, you're not Aaron Clay. You're not the child that I gave birth to. I'd been consumed with drugs. It was crazy. And I told her, I said, Mom, I'm hungry. I just want to come home. She said, well, you're not my son anymore. She said, as far as me and your daddy and your brothers and sisters, we can't emotionally deal with your ups and downs of you coming and going anymore. So she hung up the phone on me. Broke my heart. And I had been praying, reaching out to God, somebody to help me. I was in the bottom of the gutter. So how I got help was I got arrested, and I called my mom again. It was a Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, 30 days after Thanksgiving. Same conversation, same thing. She hung up on me. And about 4 days later, I got incarcerated. And that was the beginning of me turning my life around. So I got incarcerated, and then I ended up, I did about 1.5 years in jail. And I got out and got it put into a drug court program. It was a new program in Oklahoma, where they were trying to take drug offenders instead of filling the prisons back up with just a simple drug addict. What can they do to rehabilitate them? So they started a court-orientated rehab, so to speak. And I signed up in that deal, got out of there in 2006, and I met my wife, and we started having babies. Life was good. Probably about 8-9 years, I didn't have any problems, didn't do any drugs, everything was good. Raising babies, started a heating and air company, started a spray foam insulation company. We were doing good. Then I broke my back, and that was in 2013, I believe, maybe 2012, but I broke my back. And then next thing you know, I'm off in the opioid epidemic, right? So I spent 3.5 years before I got surgery in the pain clinics. I had me on oxycodones and Norcos and all that crap, and I went down there and was literally dying. And cannabis was coming legal. I knew it was fixing to be legal. I kept telling my wife, I said, because I told the judge in 2006 when I got out, I wouldn't grow any more pot and I wouldn't break Oklahoma state law anymore. I'd been in a lot of trouble through the late 90s and early 2000s, but I told him that, and he passed away probably 2011, 2012, but I honored that commitment to him. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't grow weed. I didn't do anything. I was just raising my family. So then the devil got me again. He broke my back. And, next thing you know, I got on those pills, and it was lying, cheating, stealing, all over again. You become that bad person just instantly. So
wow.
That addiction ran on all the way up until November of 2020. And that's my clean date, November 1st, 2020 from opioids. And it was a year after legalization of cannabis and a year after me having Carter Creek that I was able to produce a type of medicine that I make now. It's a pill, and that's all I take. I don't have any pharmaceuticals. I don't take any anti-inflammatories, any opioids, steroids, none of that stuff. The only thing I take is cannabis. And I have a titanium foot, I have a titanium back, I've had 4 knee surgeries, and I have rheumatoid arthritis. The devil tries to trick me into thinking that I'm hurting too bad every day that I might need something. But I just, I know that what we produce here at Carter Creek is sufficient for me to get by. And that's our whole mission here. All these cartels and things like this are flooding the United States with fentanyl. Everything's coming over fentanyl. And, I know cannabis can be taboo and all that, but I'd rather see the youth out there smoking a vape pen that had Carter Creek on it than I would see them smoking a Juul vape pen over there that had 0.5 gram of fentanyl in it that they didn't know about. So that's our big mission here, kind of plants over pills, and we're trying to fight that opioid epidemic.
Yeah. So I want to go back to you going to jail. Was that sentence 7 years? Like, did you actually serve 7 years?
No, sir. So that sentence started November of 2000 or August of 2001, and I discharged that sentence March of 2006. I was only about 5 years, and I only did about half of that time incarcerated. The other time I was on parole.
Wow. Yeah. So what was that transition like from marijuana to meth? Like how did that happen? And then how did you deal with, your feelings and everything in jail? Like, I'm interested in all of that.
Well, when you start feeling your body full of that poison, which is like meth, it takes your soul away from you. You just you do things that you would never do in your sane mind. You basically become a monster. And it takes time for healing, not only, getting off meth, just getting your physical stuff right, but your mental health. It takes more than a year, more than a couple of years to get your focus and your mind back right. So stepping off it, when I got the marijuana deal, even though it really wasn't that big of a deal, it kind of was, because my best friend's dad that I was growing for, he was also the same guy that taught me how to cook methamphetamines when I got older. So, that was like a double-edged sword right there. And, that we went on years and years with that guy, and, did a lot of things that we did, a lot of things we were involved in. And it was hard to break away from that, because when you come back home, your best friend, your next door neighbor, he's that guy, and what do you do?
Yeah.
So it was hard. It took me, I know my parents prayed for 12, 13 years for me to get straight, and that's about how long it took before I started straightening up. And it did. What stopped it was when my mama hung up the telephone. I knew I'd burnt my last bridge, and it took a long time before she would answer my phone call again. I had to go to jail, get out of jail, get my own house on my own, get my own job, no help from mom and dad, and be a fully functioning, tax-paying member of society before they'd ever talk to me again. And it took, I had to reach out to them. They didn't come reaching out to me. And I had to fight for that relationship back to my family. That was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to get more clarity just because like I really want to understand, like, so you had your parents like support initially, and then like what were their thoughts with you doing stuff with, like, your best friend's dad? Like, were they connected in any way? Like how did that look in terms of you transitioning to that side more?
Yeah. So that was tough because, um, my mom and dad, they knew my best friend's dad real good, and his mom real good. We just lived a few houses down from each other. It was tough. My mom and dad hated my best friend, didn't want me to be around him, and that I'm kind of one of those guys. If you push me one way, I may go the other way. I'm not probably going to do what you think I'm going to do. And so it was tough. It really drove a wedge in my relationship with my mom and dad for many years. I didn't really start gaining a real relationship back with my parents until after I started having kids of my own, if that makes sense. I mean, we've always been real close, but it took that time for my mom and dad to, basically cut me off and say, I'm done with you. And it was not for monetary status. I mean, just for the cry on my mama's shoulder. She didn't even want me to cry on her shoulder. And when I realized, that I'd gone that far, I thought, man, this is do or die for me. If my mama's not going to be there for me, what am I going to do? I'm on my own. So that was the beginning of me getting straight. And like I said, I did good off the meth, and then until I broke my back and got on those pain pills. And that went on all the way up until November of 2020. So I'm, 2.5 years clean now.
So what was the time in jail like? Like, what did you learn? What did you gain from that? And how did it transition you out of, that negative and like devilish state?
That was hard. I still struggle with that a little bit because when you're incarcerated, you're in a different situation. And I would say some people may come out of there with a little PTSD or anxiety. Happens a lot because you've seen things that you would never see, and you become calloused, if that makes sense. You kind of get, you get hard a little bit, even if you're not trying to be involved or anything, just being in that negative environment, seeing everybody in there that's mad and hates each other and hates being there. The guards hate working there. It's just nothing but it's just terrible. It's a bad place for any human to be if incarcerated. But at the time, I deserved it. I needed to be there. And, you get a lot of bad habits in there because everybody in there is an outlaw. So they're all making contact for when you get out and la, 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 la. So when I was in there, I tried to spend most of my time playing dominoes during the daytime. And I'd read books at night, or I'd read in my Bible at night. And, but time goes real slow while you're in jail. It really does. It really does. And then coming out, when you come back out into society, it's like, you think everybody's looking at you because you think you're labeled or whatever. And I struggle with that for just a little bit. But, one thing about me is I'm not kind of a lay down kind of guy. I'm real outgoing. So I was able to bust out of that stigma from being in jail. I had to have a hands-on labor type job for a couple of years before I was able to start other companies and things like that and become an entrepreneur myself and an investor myself. So my whole life has been an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what transitioned you into like the entrepreneurial business owner state of mind from that, right? Like you said, you got a job after getting out of jail for like 2 years, And so like, what was that period like after jail and then leading into the businesses and entrepreneurship that you went
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. So, um, you know, I've been making a decent living working for somebody else. I was a manager at my job of where I was at. And, I wasn't probably at the highest level I could go, but I was a manager. So, and I wasn't making a whole lot of money, $35,000 a year, not very much money. That's what I was making as a manager. And I always wanted more. Every human strives for more, where they have enough courage to get up and put that into action. That just depends on the individual, how we're all made. But my wife is the biggest influence on me getting me started. When we started our heat and air company, that was in 2011, and I had been struggling with this for about 6 months. And then in the middle of it, my back was had been broke. No, I broke my back after that I started my company. But we were sitting there talking about it, and my wife just, she said, "Aaron, did you not pray about it?" I said, "Yes, I did." She said, "Do you feel like you have God's favor and blessing? You think this is, in your heart that this is a godly thing, that this is a godly decision for us?" I said, "I do." And she said, "Well, go." She just kicked me out. She said, "Just go." And I stepped out there on my own, and it was scary the first day. I can remember I come home, and I went to the bank doing stuff, and I come back to the house because I didn't have an office. We were working out of home. And I just sat there looking at my phone, waiting for it to ring. And I thought, "Oh, Lord, what am I going to do?" But by the end of that week, like I said, I was out in the community a lot. I was able to hustle up some work. And, I learned a lot about faith. My wife taught me a lot about believing in something you can't see or something that you can't touch, but you know it's there. My wife has given me that faith, or the ability to see faith like that, if that makes sense. And so when I start a project now, the first thing I always do is make sure that I pray about it and I have God's favor. I talk to my wife about it, make sure I have her favor. And then I just run at it 90 miles an hour once I have my whole business plan put in place. So, and it's not that scary. Sometimes even when they don't work out and things get bad, it is what it is. I just look at it as not a problem, but a solution. Everybody worries about problems and getting stressed out and all that, but you just take it one deal at a time, one meeting at a time, and at the end of the day, you can turn your phone off and go home. You don't have to go lay in bed with somebody that's going to try to eat you up or not. You don't have to deal with those guys. It's work. You get up tomorrow, deal with them again, start over.
Yeah. No, it's amazing that that your wife was like a driving force in your businesses, and I think that's like something super special that not a lot of people have. Do you think without her it would have been harder to start and get going on those businesses?
Yeah, another thing that my wife does for me is she's always she's running point in my life. So I have a lot of different people that come and go in my life because all the businesses that I'm involved in, and my wife is always she's kind of always sitting on the back, scanning the crowd, understanding all the people that I'm intermingling with. And then when she feels like there's somebody, that I don't need to be talking to, or has a wrong agenda, she'll tell me. And if I don't listen to her, then a couple of weeks later, I always have that conversation. "I told you so." So I've learned now, the older I get, I've learned, my wife, that's her job, is to protect me and her babies, our kids. And that's what she does. She's always running point in our environment, always making sure, what's going on. And that's, I got to give her most of the credit for all of my success, because without that, I would have been eaten up by vultures or eaten up by the wolf. She's very good like that. And when you have a partner on your side that's willing to share the ups and downs with you and still love you, and it's great. When you got two people doing things, if you take one stick and you have it together, it'll snap pretty easy. But if you take a whole bunch of sticks and put them together, boy, they're pretty strong. They won't break near as easy. So I'm all about team building and, having a partner in life.
Yeah. So what was like your first taste of success in business in terms of your companies, like revenue or just like,
So
like
my
what was your
heating and air
first
company,
success?
we started it in our first 12 months in business. We did over $1 million, and I was like, I'd never
Wow.
seen money like that. And then over
Yeah.
the course of the next 10 years, we grew it to a $5 million a year company and operated in 4 different states. And I started a spray foam insulation company in the middle of all that. And I blew a lot of money. So I was one of those guys. That's just what I did. I had a lot, when I first started making money at Southern Comfort, I can tell you what I did. I blew my money in the casino. I used to go to the
No.
casino a lot. Yeah. I used to go I'm serious. I'd spend three or four, $5,000 a week in the casino, just playing and blowing.
Yeah.
I'd win some, I'd lose some. But it, all in all, I was losing. And that was, going into business and being able to deal with money and starting off dealing with 6 figures and 7 and 8. It gets a lot of growing pains, especially for somebody that's never dealt with anything like that. I'm sure it's the same with everybody, but
Yeah.
now as I'm older, I'm able to understand money, and I look at it different. Money is just a tool. It's just another tool in my tool belt.
Yeah. So how were you able to scale your business like relatively fast? Like, like most
Yeah, I
people
did.
take multiple years to get to even 1 million.
So I always had that mindset that if the demand is there, I always want to supply for whatever business I'm in. I want to be able to satisfy any demand that business may call. And so if my phone rang for heating and air, if it was in Arkansas, I would go to Arkansas. If it was in Louisiana, I'd go to Louisiana. If it was Texas, I'd go to Texas. Um, I just, I don't have any stop in me. You think about God and the earth that he created and this world that we live in. Think about all this stuff. Think about how busy he was. Think about how he probably enjoyed getting to make Thailand and how he made China and when he did all that stuff. And then when he made the U.S., I have that creative heart. It's a creative mind. I like to build things, and I like to build companies, and I like to see them come up and be successful with a good EBITDA. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part about the business?
So my favorite part about Carter Creek is about the same time I got clean on those fields, I started doing my what I'm doing now. It's called a grower's tip of the day. I do it on Instagram and Facebook. It's just like a daily devotional. That's where there's not everybody goes to the Baptist church. Not everybody goes down to the Methodist church or Catholic church or to the Muslim hall or to the Buddhist hall. Not everybody is meant to sit behind a church pew, if that makes sense. So, God spoke to me a few years ago when he told me to start doing this Grow with Tip of the Day. He wanted me to take the ups and downs of plant life and the stuff that happens there and relate it to human life and the things we go in here, and to let everybody know that Jesus loves them. It's not any forced religion or nothing like that. He's just there, and he's present. He doesn't want, there's such a big misconception over religion and spirituality. It's so crazy. But, God just told me to go out into the cannabis community doing this daily podcast and just kind of planting little seeds about him along the way, not to scare anybody away with the big golden cross or anything, because some people are timid to hearing about spirituality and things like that. You don't want to scare them away or nothing like that. So basically, I try to live my life open in the public so people can see how I live my life, and maybe they'll want the light to shine through me. And if they don't, that's fine. I'm not mad at them. They still love everybody and all that good stuff. It's just a way of life, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the
So
biggest
what?
part of Carter Creek. Outside of all the great flower and rosin and stuff like that, medicine we produce, awards we've won. At the end of the day, the most important thing is helping a brother next to us, making sure that the younger generation understands its moral values and a moral compass.
Yeah. So what was the journey like in terms of like all the businesses that you started? that were successful before getting to Carter Creek and going into the cannabis industry and taking over that industry? Because like that was like what, a good like chunk, like 8 years or so.
Yeah, that was 10 years. So I started my Southern Comfort Heating and Air in July of 2011. I sold it in November of 2021. That and my spray foam company. I started that spray foam insulation company about 2015 because I was going to a new house, putting in a HVAC system in a residential house. I thought, well, if I'm going to go there for that, I've already got to tell the insulator how to do his job based off the heat loads for the house. So I thought, why get one paycheck when I can get two? So I started doing the spray foam. So I got two paychecks. I'd get one for heat and air. As soon as my heat and air guys got done, we'd spray foam the house. I'd get two paychecks. And then I got into some commercial leasing. So I started a leasing company a few years ago, and I own some commercial properties that I leased out. And that's been a pretty neat project to get into. And then about 5 years ago, down here in this area of Broken Bow, Oklahoma, we have a new town that just got incorporated called Hochatown, Oklahoma. And so I'm also a developer in this area. So I buy raw land and put into infrastructure, the internet, the electricity, water, build the roads, and then I sell lots for these real nice vacation Airbnb homes. So there's a lot happening down in our little area. You know, I know we're kind of desolate, but they're referring Hochatown to Dallas as they are Lake Tahoe to Sacramento. Kind of a new thing. If you look on Airbnb's website, the number 2 short destination spot in the United States is Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and that's where I live. So
Gotcha.
lot of tourist stuff going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what gave you the drive to start Carter Creek and you know, really just like go into it as like your biggest business?
Okay, so this is my biggest business, and this will be my retirement business. I'm going to stay with Carter Creek until I'm done. I don't ever plan on getting out of it. When I got to this company and got started here, it meant something to me. Not only did it mean something to me, it meant something to my wife and to my kids, to my mom and dad, to my brothers, my sisters, and also meant to a lot of people in the community. When I started Carter Creek, my mission is plants over pills, and I actually had to live that. Here. I had to fight through that addiction, and so this mission or this movement of Carter Creek. It's nothing but the truth, and it's my own personal experiences, and I just want to, you know, maybe touch a few other people's lives out there. Maybe they can get pieces hear things of my testimony, what I've been through, and maybe that'll help them, give them a little bit of hope. Because I can tell you, 20 years ago, I was homeless. I didn't even own the clothes on my back. I was just a junkie walking around the streets of McCurtain County, Oklahoma. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm high and mighty or nothing now, but over the last 15 or 20 years, I've been highly successful in about 10 or 15 companies that I have. And I give all that credit to God and to my wife. I quit living my own will, started living for Him, and things are better. And that led me back to where I'm at Carter Creek. You know, it's a real lifestyle. It's a real culture. So when I go in, interact with people at these shows, or I see people, I was at a show this weekend, had several hundred people there, and they kept coming by, and everybody wanted to talk to me about what it meant for me doing that grower's tip of the day. I got more satisfaction out of that interaction and networking with people, understanding that maybe I am helping a little bit. And, you know, if I can just help one person, if I worked for 40 years and if one person quit using drugs based off of something they heard from me or something that they got from Carter Creek, then our whole mission was a success, you know. Just one. It's all it takes, you know.
Yeah. So with Carter Creek, like how did it start and where is it now?
Yeah, so I had my heating and air company, and I started Carter Creek 2018. It says 2019. That's when I actually started a legal company, but we started prepping in 2018. And I didn't even know that it was going to take me off of pain pills at that time. I started it up, and we started growing it and cultivating, and then I started consuming it, and I got on these edibles. And once I got on the edibles, I started understanding the cannabis for the medicinal side. 2021, 2 years after being in cannabis, I was able to completely put all the opioids and all that stuff to the side. Did about a 2-week detox on my own. It's a proven fact you can detox off opioids with the right amount of cannabis. I can tell you that. I've been there, lived it, and I've had some. The funny thing is, I've had several people here that works for me at Carter Creek that's had the exact same story. So that's what even gives me more drive. I saw my mother-in-law conquer a 35-year pill addiction from cannabis. So that's what gives me hope, and that's what drives our brand. Is just fighting back. Anybody can use our cannabis and use it all day, every day. They can abuse it, all that good stuff, and then they can get on an airplane and fly to England and forget their medicine. They're not going to get sick. They're not going to be getting the fevers and the chills. If you're an alcoholic, you run out of alcohol, you're going to get physically sick. Same with these pills, Xanaxes, and all these opioids. Your body physically has to have it, and marijuana is totally different. You can be the biggest consumer of all time and then just forget about it and go somewhere and not have any of it for 2 weeks. You're just going to get antsy. Your pain may set in. You'll start hurting. The element that's actually treating is the only thing you'll notice different. You're not going to be in the bathroom taking 20 hot showers in a day because you got fever.
Yeah. So where's Carter Creek now?
So right now we're in Oklahoma, is the only state that we're in right now, and we're expanding in Oklahoma. We just turned on a new facility here just a couple of months ago, and I'm going tomorrow to actually look at another facility. And my goal is to completely dominate Oklahoma in the cannabis industry. Not dominate. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to say dominate, but I want to be. I want to be everybody's. I want to have that choice. So every time somebody comes to a dispensary, I want them to see that black and gold. I want that to be a choice for them in their medicine. So I want to be available to as many people as I can here. And I've had a team. I've been working on some MSO projects, maybe going to some multiple states with the Carter Creek brand. And, we may and we will do that eventually. But as for right now, we're going to really take control of Oklahoma and do what we do best. We're going to dial it in and be in abundance for Oklahoma.
Yeah. So did you have any mentors or partnerships along the way to help you? You've done a lot of businesses. Carter Creek's growing massively. Do you have any mentors or partnerships outside of your wife that helped you?
Yeah, I do. So there's a guy that I grew up with. His name is Lynn Bivens, and he's helped me build some of my companies. And then I've got a friend of mine, Joe the grower. He works here at Carter Creek, and he's been here and helped build these things too. But yeah.
Cool. How did they impact you in terms of personally with the business? Could you have done it without them?
No. So that's the thing about it. If I was going to be Carter Creek and it was just going to be about Slim or Aaron, what I can do, it would consist of about this one room I'm sitting in here right now, because I wouldn't be able to scale my brand if I don't have the right team. So I was able to expand. That's the other thing. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've had to train my entire team. I think I have about 15 growers right now, and none of them knew anything about cultivation until they started here. And we've had to learn this together. I have a lot of key players involved right now. I could not have done it without the research and the work that they did on their own at home You know, I've got Joe the grower, and I've got Junior, another guy, and I've got Rico, another kid, that they have spent relentless hours studying and learning this craft because, you know, they're going to be the managers. They didn't have a college education, so how can they be a master at their craft in year one or year two? They can't. It's 4 years now. We've been open for 4 years now, and I just now feel like we're ready to come to market this year and spread our love with everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the team is the most important thing. If you think you can turn every screw on the job, you're always going to be limited just to what I can actually do. So I have to find people and get the best version out of that person and understand what their God-given gift is, and then put them in the right position within the company that I have. And when I do that, and they just shine, you know, believing in people and trusting people and giving them a chance, that's probably the greatest tool I've had to team building, is actually trusting somebody with $1 million company or $2 million company to operate it, or this part of it.
Yeah.
That makes people feel good when you believe in them and then understand they're going to fail, and you're not just going to cut their head off when they fail. You're going to help them up, dust them off, and show them how to keep going. Because, you know, looking at my life, I failed so many times. I've had to have help many times. I know what it's like not to have help. And that's what it's at. You know, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get the best version of everybody that's around me. You know, I want all of my people, I want them all to be training me. I want them to be teaching me things. And now I've got a team that actually does that now. I've got some of my team that's learned a lot more about cultivation than what I know. I have to get information from them in our weekly grow meetings and stuff. And having a team that believes in the mission, that makes it 10 times as easy. You know, I've got 15 growers here that will be here on Christmas Day to water the plants with a smile on their face. You know, whatever it takes. If they have to be here at midnight because there's a problem, that's what they do. Just like this weekend, we worked all weekend, and no overtime pay or nothing. We're all on salary, just what we do. And because everybody believes in what we're doing, and that really makes for a good recipe. Because when you know, the owner, of course, he's all going to be giggly and into his little project, his little world he's created. But then if he can get his managers to have the same love and drive for that company, that's when you can be very, very successful company. And as you'll see, Carter Creek over the next 2 to 5 years, we're going to expand rapidly, and you'll see it happen. And you'll see it happening this year and next year and the next year after that. We're going to push to try to go everywhere we can. I will go to other states, but it's only going to be when the right people come along.
Yeah. So what's your process for instilling those values and like that culture? So obviously that's a hard thing to do, and probably the lead driver in scaling businesses.
You know, being visible in the workplace with my guys. I'm here every day. That's one thing. You know, I heard Elon Musk talking about one of the companies that he started. I don't know if it was Tesla or whatever, but he said for the first year or 2 years that he had that company, he decided he would sleep in the office of that company. That way his team would know how dedicated he was to that company and being there. So he did that. So anytime you can lead by example, and your team can see you get persecuted, your team can see you get beat down, your team can see the devil try to tear down your temple in every direction, and how you handle yourself under duress. If you can maintain your proper morals, your team will love you for it. But if you're going to be a real leader, you're going to have to be prepared to go to battle, and your team, you're going to have to be prepared to be a martyr or to be a living sacrifice for your team. Because if when your team believes that you're in it as much as I'm in it, they're going to be in it with you. You know, I had my house been paid off, I don't know how many years now, but it's a big accomplishment for me. And then over this past winter, I had to refinance my house just to keep this black and gold label on that wall right there. And my team saw me have to do that. You know, we went through a hard time last year, and you know, I was willing to forfeit my own house for my team to still have a job. And by doing so, they all know how serious I am about it, and they all know that I'm willing to go to any lengths to make sure that they have a paycheck on Tuesday. And
yeah, 100%.
Saying that, then they're all in at 100%. Like I said, I plug them all into the proper positions where they can shine, and I just kind of get out of their way now, and I just keep them dusted off, and I keep them pushing forward, and I keep reassuring them every day, you know, that we're doing the right thing. And we start our weeks off, first of the week we have prayer meetings on Monday, you know, and we just pray that the devil doesn't have any jurisdiction in Carter Creek this week. You know, he doesn't mess with the people, doesn't try to trick the employees or try to turn us against each other or none of that stuff. We just pray that, you know, Jesus has dominion over Team Carter Creek. And I know a lot of people probably will not like me for saying that J word on this podcast, but, you know, it is what it is. That's just who I am. And everything about Carter Creek, just like that sign says, you know, we love everybody. That's the same motto that Jesus has. A lot of people try to use Jesus and think he was a judge, or that, you know, they're trying to use him for, it's not like that. You know, he just wants you to know that he loves you. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So would you say Carter Creek is like faith-based, like, and the employees are faith-based as well?
Yes, sir. Everybody here is born again believers at Carter Creek. We are. We're not ashamed to say it. And but now, when it comes to politics, we don't even talk about it. We say politics is terrible.
So is the faith a requirement, and is it like a big driver, you think, in the business?
No. I don't force that on anybody. Most everybody here, you know, it's 100% choice. You know, that's just a decision that they made because they started going back to their own church when they started working here or whatever. You know, it's that's not a requirement by any means. I just assume I'd rather have employees that were atheists or agnostics. You know, that's who I get excited when I get around people who our spiritual beliefs are a little bit different, because they're all thinking I'm going to try to force something on them or judge them or tell them this or they're going to hell or all that, but it's not like that at all. I just want to understand, you know, what they're, you know, listening to, and then, you know, tell them what I hear. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So what do people think of you, like your parents, your friends, going from like where you were to like where you are now, a super successful business person? Like what are their thoughts? Like, have you talked to them? Have you had conversations? And I'm just like interested to see like what that transformation is for them and how they.
Yeah. My mom and dad are very big supporters in me and in Carter Creek and all the people that work here. You know, it's been different, you know, even for my parents to be okay with me being a pot guy or cannabis guy, you know, because that was not them. My dad was a banker. My mom worked for the DHS, and they were into the Baptist church. You know, if they drank on Saturday, they didn't tell anybody on Sunday. You know, they lived that kind of life. So for my mom and dad were prominent citizens of the community. So for them to have their son being the big cannabis giant here in town and all the cannabis movement, it's been different for them, but they love it 100% because they know over the last 3 years they've actually got to see the true version of their son, if that makes sense. Because my mind's not clouded with opioids or, you know, any other kind of medicines anymore. So it's been great. The church, you know, the preacher at the church, me and him get along very good. I taught children's church all the way up until COVID happened. You know, even through the first 2 years of me cultivating, I taught the 6 to 11-year-olds at church every Wednesday night. And
that's awesome.
I'd have people, deacons of the church, talk to me in between services about how the business is going and, all that. And so it's been pretty neat, and it's been more accepted than what people think. It's been accepted more in the church than what people think, because if it's presented right, like how we do it as a form of medicine, and we try to educate patients as they come into our dispo. We try to understand their ailments and try to, make sure their dosing is proper, based off of that. So this is it's good for our community, and our community recognizes it. We did a couple of fundraisers since we've had our dispensary open there for the local neighborhood kids, and that's just what we do. We're not here to take everything from the community. Yeah, we do take some money from them buying stuff that we want to turn around and help the kids back out in that same community. And people see that, we're not just takers, we're givers also.
Yeah. Do you think your extreme story has converted people to faith more because they've seen it so prevalent in your story?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people come up to me. I had some people this weekend come up to me at the show and was talking to me about what it's like to be a Christian in the cannabis world, if that makes sense. And I just had to, basically break it down. If you think everybody that takes Xanax is going to hell, no, you think nobody's going to hell because they're taking a prescribed drug, but you can take that Xanax pill and I'll be incoherent in 20 minutes. I won't even be able to talk to you. And then if I get to taking them every day, then I'll be sick when I decide I have to go to hospitals and detox off of them, so that, understanding cannabis, being in the medicine cabinets beside pharmaceutical drugs is that's the goal of where I'm trying to get to. Right beside the Tylenol, says the black and gold Carter Creek. Because like I said, it's not all about smoking it. We're making these things in pill form now, just like the pharmaceutical. Everybody goes on the airplane. I don't want to carry a bag of smoke on there that stinks up the whole airport or any of that kind of stuff. But if you had pill bottles, you can, carry it on there. It doesn't smell, doesn't stink, anything like that. It's just like a Tylenol pill. Then, people get where they can consume that, because everybody is geared towards taking medicine by pill form. So that's one of the changes I've had to make in the cannabis industry, is realize that not everybody likes to smoke in those nasty joints. Not everybody likes to smell like that, but they may like the benefits. So we're making pills now.
Wow, that's really cool. I don't think I've ever heard of a pill form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. You can, they'll last 16 hours, long time, 12, 16 hours.
Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on marijuana compared to other drugs? Alcohol? Yeah.
So I'm totally against any other drug, if that makes sense. I will drink a beer every now and then. But I understand the dangers of alcohol, the dangers of alcohol poisoning, the dangers of overdosing from Valiums and opioids and that kind of stuff. And, like I was saying earlier, that's kind of my whole mission is, I know for a fact that if somebody's got a bag of Carter Creek, they will not overdose and die. They will not get physically sick if they don't have any more medicine. And so that's my whole deal. Just trying to connect with people in that sense and let people know the realness of who I am and where I've been. That way that they can understand that it's okay to use cannabis, and there's certain ways to do it. Not, a majority of the cannabis users won't have tattoos on them like I do, or any of that kind of stuff. They're businessmen. They got their suit and ties on, that kind of stuff. You'd be surprised how many of those people want in the cannabis for the medicine, because for anxiety relief. Most of the guys in blue collar America, they're stressed out because they're in nonstop meetings. Their life is like this. If you're like a mortgage broker or some type of investment banker or something, everything is going so fast. They would love to have a medicine that they could take there in the office place. But if they're in their big high-rise deals working, they can't just go outside and smoke a joint or anything like that. But if they're in their office, they could take a pill, be ready to go.
Yeah. So you think marijuana is good for you? Like for someone like myself, like I've never smoked weed before.
Hmm. So, if you have never smoked marijuana, there's probably not any reasons for you to. If you did it now, it would be no different than buying a six pack to get you a buzz. So, but if you ever come down with an ailment, yeah, that that would be the time to do it. Or if you wanted to go out one night and get messed up, but you don't want to drink, that'd be better to smoke marijuana. It wouldn't be get drunk because you're not going to have a DUI wreck. You can look at the statistics. I think there's 0 fatality car wrecks with a stone driver. I mean, it's absolutely, you know. So if you were going to go out as a young man, yeah, I'd rather see you smoking a Carter Creek joint than I would see you drinking a beer of whatever flavor it is, And the thing about beer, it came from this earth too. It used to be corn or barley or hops or whatever, but we cooked it down and distilled it into a different molecular state. It's not the same as what God gave us, God gave us a cannabis plant just like it is. We don't take it and change its molecular state. THC is THC, CBD is CBD. We don't change it from another state. The methamphetamine grows out of the ground. It's an ephedra plant, but mankind takes that plant and extracts it and then, uses a chemical reaction to change its molecular state. All medicines came from the earth as a plant, and if we use them as that plant instead of how mankind has cooked them or changed them, that's where it becomes a problem. Same thing about the spirituality I was talking about and all these religions. Mankind's come in there and wrote all these doctrines about how you're supposed to read the Bible, but it's not in the Bible. So you can't believe mankind's doctrine. It's not right. It's broken. So that's why I stay out of religion, but I am a very, very spiritual man. But I do stay out of religion. I just believe in what's wrote down, what's written.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's interesting that marijuana is one of those things that kind of stays in its natural form. Because like what you went over, it's like the same thing with like the food industry and like them like injecting like unnatural sugars and like all these different chemicals into food and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, marijuana is like one of those things that, well, I guess there's probably cases where it gets morphed into something else as well. But when there's, companies like you guys creating, natural plant, then it's good.
And we're all our farm here. We're 100% organic, so we cultivate inside, but we use living soil and we use raw amendments mined right out of Mother Earth. When I use Epsom salt or if I use gypsum or whatever, or calcium or whatever, it's not in a bottle mixed up with a bunch of man-made nutrients. We actually get it from a mine that comes right out of the earth, and we bring those raw nutrients, and that's how we feed our plants. So we actually have red worms and fungi and bacteria, enzymes, and all that stuff in our soil. A lot of these commercial cultivators grow in like these rock wall cubes. It's fiberglass cubes, and they have nutrients that are pumped in and out, and they dry them back so many times during the day. The thing about living soil is I tried to mimic outdoors as much as I could, and then by using living soil inside, we're able to produce a very, very clean medicine that doesn't require any flushing or rinsing of the growing media, because we don't put any contaminants into the soil, and regenerative farming. So our medicine tastes really good, but that's all I'll say about that. Medicine's very flavorful.
Yeah. So what are the big differences between organic and non-organic in terms of marijuana growth?
Yeah, so it's real simple. Is they'll take those nutrient companies take the same nutrients that I use, and then for them to make a bottle of phosphorus mixture or whatever, they dilute it in water, and they use other compounds to hold the nutrients and make them available to the plant, like arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury. And then, so as you're feeding that plant phosphorus, you're also feeding that plant arsenic and these heavy metals that are unwanted. So then at the end of your cultivation cycle, the last 10 days or so while you're growing a rock wall, you only pump water through that cube, and you have to make that plant consume all the heavy metals and stuff that's inside of it. organic farming, we never put anything in there that has to be rinsed out. So, I don't have to do any flushing, so to speak. I don't make my plant eat itself or make my plant consume the nutrients inside of it. I just harvest her when she's ready to be harvested. She doesn't know nothing about it. So the difference is our inputs. We don't put anything into the living soil that has heavy metals or toxins in it because we can't rinse it out. Whereas the guys growing in the Rockwall cubes and cocoa, they do use heavy metals and things like that. And salt-based nutrients, I'm not trying to get on a different topic, but just thinking about that a little bit, I always think about what salt does to the human body. Because the cannabis plant is glucose, just like me and you. We're made out of the same stuff. So I think about that. And if I consume salt, say I'm putting salt on everything all day long, then tomorrow I'm going to wake up, my eyes are going to be swelled up, I won't be able to get the ring off my finger, my body's going to be retaining excess fluid, and I'll be swollen. Well, most of the times when those guys are growing salt-based nutrients, their buds tend to grow rather large. When they're growing, they look really big, but they're contained with so much water, if that makes sense. Because I feel like if you're feeding a plant that way with those, because those nutrients are all salt-based nutrients, so they use sodium chloride is very heavy in there, and then I just think about it making me swell, and I know if it does that to me, it's making my cannabis plant swell. So we don't use any of those salt-based nutrients or any of that stuff. We just use organic, regenerative farming practices.
Wow. So did you think about that when you initially started it? Like, you want to make this like a super clean operation and like the best quality that you can, or did you kind of transition into that?
We transitioned into it. When we first started everything, it was just, I don't know, we were just guessing, and it was all new. We're kind of just figuring things. We didn't even know for sure where all we were going. But now we're locked in, and, we know our mission, we know our purpose, and we know what we're going to do when we get up every morning, if that makes sense. Everybody, I don't have to come in and guide traffic to anybody. They come in, they walk in the grow room doors, everybody knows what everybody's got to do. My youngest employee's been here with me 2 years now. I've got some that's been with me 4 and 5 years since we started. So I don't have a big turnover. We're all family. I have my niece and my nephew works for me. And then my manager, Joe, he has his brother-in-law and his nephew that works here. And my sister-in-law runs our dispensary. My wife is, she's the one that's always running point in between everybody. Like I told you, she's always running the back scenes behind everything. Yeah, it's just a family business. It's all about love, and it's all about getting the best expression of that cultivar and getting it to the patient so they can have some good, clean medicine that they don't have to worry about having fentanyl in it. Because right now, if you buy any weed off the street, that's a 50% chance it's got fentanyl sprayed on it. Seriously. 50? 50. Yes, sir. And if it came from Mexico, it's 100%. Anything that
Wait,
comes
so why?
over,
What is the
they're putting
what
it
is
in
the
the
use of
food.
fentanyl for?
They're putting it in the food that comes across from Mexico. Everything that's coming, imports that's coming from over there, they're tainting that stuff with fentanyl, and the people are becoming addicted to it without even knowing it.
Wait, why are they tainting it with fentanyl? What does it do
Because
for the food?
they got El Chapo Guzman in Florence, Colorado. When the United States went down to another country and put handcuffs on him and put him in prison in a country he'd never been in, so the cartels went at war with the United States government. It just is what it is. And, they flooded the earth with fentanyl the moment they put Chapo in jail. They should have dealt with him. Should have not dealt with. They were playing world police. I don't know all the ins and outs, but so they went from methamphetamine when they had Chapo. Then all his kids dumped all the fentanyl everywhere. It's not going to stop until he's out.
Wow, that's crazy. And fentanyl is like a very small dose, so if they have a lot of it, then they can like use it for a long time.
Yeah, like a pure fentanyl, the size of a grain of salt. If you touched it with your finger, a size of a grain of salt of pure fentanyl, you'd be dead before they could get Narcan to you.
If you touched it?
Touched it. They're, down in Houston, down in Corpus Christi, San Antonio, they've been going around taking dollar bills, folding up and putting a couple of grains of fentanyl in it. Kids run out there and find that fentanyl or find that dollar bill, or a homeless guy finds that dollar bill. He opens it up and he touches that fentanyl in it. And then 5 minutes later, somebody drives by and he's one of those zombies standing upside down. That's why they're not even having to use it, and they're being dying or stuff from the fentanyl. It's that bad. If we didn't have this COVID and we didn't have this government leading all this drama in the United States right now, this big smoke screen that they got going on, they'd really understand how bad this fentanyl epidemic is. There's more people dying from fentanyl than there is from COVID. I think there's 11 people an hour, or 22 people an hour or something like that died from fentanyl. I can't remember the exact number, but it's over 100,000 people a year in the United States are dying from fentanyl.
Wow. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. One of my friends was very young. He was like my really good friends from high school, and he died from a laced fentanyl overdose in one drug that he was taking. I'm not sure if it was marijuana or something else, but it's just like, it's crazy to think that, like, a life that should go so long just ends short because of something like that, something not clean. And it makes so much sense for business like yours in terms of like supplying that, the good, clean marijuana without any of that shit put into it.
Yeah. That's our whole deal with Carter Creek. That's our whole movement, is to give everybody a different option that's not going to be harmful to them. Because if you look back at the history of mankind, they have always done something to stimulate their brains. They've always either looked at pornography, or been gambling, went to the horse races, or they drink alcohol. Doesn't matter. They do something to stimulate their brain. Maybe a lot of them now are gamers. You see them playing those games and stuff like that. We all do something to stimulate our brain. And we just got to make sure whatever we're putting in is not harmful, because everybody knows that inputs always equal outputs. If I'm sitting here pumping myself full of poison, full of some man-made drugs, then I'm going to lose my soul eventually. The cannabis plant is full of life. You put that in yourself every day, I can promise you're going to be in a better place, mentally and physically, if you need it. Not everybody needs it, though, just like you're talking about. That's why I told you, if you hadn't used it, and you don't have a physical ailment for it, don't use it. No need in it. But maybe when you're older, or maybe in a few years, maybe you'll go through something stressful. You may, have some anxiety for a while, or you may have a battle with depression for a minute. I don't know. But use it when you need it. It's not, marijuana is not for everybody. It's not the miracle drug that saves everybody, but it is for a large group of people.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely more on the coffee side. My brother smokes every day, though, so I get a little secondhand every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to meet your brother then. If he smokes every day, he needs to spend a day with me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll connect you too. So where do you see Carter Creek going in the next 5, maybe 10 years? I don't know if you have a vision going forward, and do you think Carter Creek will be, your baby till you die?
So yeah, I would like to see Carter Creek in every legal state in 5 years from now. That would be a goal. That would be that's something that I want to see. That's I've been working on that here lately. I've looked at several different opportunities, several different deals at several different states. So far, I haven't found the right deal to line up yet, but it's coming. And when it does, then I'm going to move into those states. I feel like maybe the right deals haven't happened yet, because I've just been finishing dialing in my Oklahoma regimen. So I've got all my focus there right now, expanding and doing things here in Oklahoma. But in 5 years, I would love to be, if not in every legal state, at least started heading to each legal state.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I look forward to seeing that vision. And then in terms of the younger generation, what advice would you give, maybe 3 three things that, you know, every young person should hear coming from someone who's had like such a hard journey and has still been able to come out, you know, a success and been able to help a lot of people within their business and through faith? What are three, you know, things that you would share?
That's a pretty deep topic. I mean, that's pretty heavy. That's a pretty heavy
Maybe
question.
maybe to like your 16-year-old self, you know, someone like who is like just not on the right path, or like, you know, not in the right mind.
The first thing that I would like to tell anybody was to make sure and find your spiritual self, find who you are spiritually, and find the proper and one and only true living God. Try to find him. When you find him, that's the first thing you got to do. And it's okay to be different. So for you, Mr. Jackson, if you were ever going to say the J word, you'd probably lose half your friends. And so what I'm saying is it's okay to be different. Follow your heart and have no judgment. I've been real guilty of myself of even judging situations and things like that. Have no judgment. And the last thing is find your moral compass. This movement of woke America will be the end of our country. We're crossing threshold right now in immoral. Let's just think about what's morally correct and what's morally incorrect. Doesn't matter what we do at our own home, but when we're forcing corrupt agenda down our children's throat and trying to brainwash them into, you know, understanding it's okay to cut their penis off or, you know, cut their genitals off before they even have pubic hair. They're not even old enough to vote yet. We're allowing that to happen. That is a catastrophic problem. It is. I don't care if anybody hates me for it or not, because they really don't want to push me too hard about this woke movement. But just y'all be careful and understand somebody's going to have to stand up and do the right thing. That's all I'm going to say. You know, don't be scared to be morally correct. You know, it's okay not to say no. Peer pressure, just say no. If it's not right, don't do it. Even if the whole crowd goes and they all go out and have the best damn time of their life, you know, if you weren't supposed to go, you weren't supposed to go. You know, and it's okay to be different. But just follow your moral compass and find God. That's the most important thing. And love everybody. You know, don't be mad at anybody. Don't be mad at the woke movement. You ain't even got to be mad at them because they don't understand. But just go. You don't have to sit back and take it. Go show them some love. Go talk to these people. You know what I mean? Don't stand back at a distance and judge each other. Y'all, let's all go sit down and talk. I talk to people every single day trying to understand how they see the world and how they understand their moral compass. And I don't judge somebody when they tell me they're a devil worshiper. Okay, tell me why. Let's talk about it. Let's figure this stuff out. You know, it's not but what happens most of the time, oh, he's a devil worshiper. Shit, I don't want to have nothing to do with him. Oh, he's a drug addict. I don't want to have nothing to do with him. There's been so many of those people rejected in this world. That's where that grower's tip of the day I do comes important. Is you know, God told me to reach out to people that are not going to ever walk into church, but they'll pick up their phone and look on social media, and they're going to look at Carter Creek because they may get to see a cannabis plant. But at the same time, I'm luring them with the picture of a cannabis plant, but I'm planting the seed of God at the same time. That's what I do on social media.
Yeah. So what about like people who have someone or a friend that, you know, are struggling or are like going through something like similar to like maybe what you had in your childhood? Like, what advice would you give to them? Because like you said like kind of like look at them in terms of like what they're doing wrong, and, you know, forgive and love them and like understand them. So like what advice would you give to those people who have people around them that are doing stuff that aren't, you know?
Just remember that a closed mouth never gets fed. So just think, for instance, say you go out, you got brothers, and just say your brothers are doing some things that are not right. If you don't in private, call it to their attention and talk to them about it and explain why you feel the way you feel. Don't have to bring anybody else in that conversation, but it's up to you. You're the one, it's up to each individual. It's not about calling out ugly, but it's about keeping our brothers accountable. Because if we don't keep our brothers accountable, we may drift and the devil painted this false picture, but we get away with something that we really didn't even know we were trying to get away with because we didn't even know it was really wrong. Then the next thing you know, we're living a life over here that's not right. The only real brother is the one who has concern for the well-being of his real brother. If I'm doing something wrong, anybody in my team here at Carter Creek has the permission to call me out. Even though I own the company, we work on transparency here. We call each other out. We hold each other accountable. If I see somebody going down the wrong, just like the other day, last night I had one of the kids over at the house, one of the growers, and I've been hearing he's been drinking a lot. I heard he's been drinking every day. So I called him out last night. We're sitting around the house smoking the joint, fixing to go to bed. And I said, hey, I'm not going to say his name, but hey, I heard you've been drinking every damn day. That's going to be a problem. Just blurted it out right there. There's no sense in hiding or whispering about it. And me and Mama talking behind his back, everybody. We're all sitting there, friends and all. I just blurted it out. Hey, you got a drinking problem. We need to get this fixed. Because if we just sit there and whisper and talk about it behind his back, it'll be 10 years. He'll be completely bona fide alcoholic. I call him out right now. It's all open. We're all best friends. Hey, if they see me drinking every day, they're going to call me out. If they see me taking a pain pill, I promise you, everybody at work here is going to call my wife. Hey, he's back on the pill. It's going to happen. I have, and total transparency, and that's very important in today's world because there's so many scams and so many people with the wrong agenda. I'm all about transparency.
Yeah.
I have nothing to hide. People can know all about my life. They can know I was abused when I was a kid. They can know I was a drug addict. They can know I went to jail. I don't care about all that stuff. They can know that I've had mental health problems. That's fine. I've struggled in this life. I want people to understand who I really am and what I've been through, so maybe they can understand it's possible. Because I can tell you, I've been beat down. I've been beat down many times in my life, and the Bible says that a righteous man falls 7 times, yet rises again. That's what we do, and we're not singled out. Just if you think you're living right and you get saved and doing things, don't think that just because you do that you're not going to get the flu. Don't think that your company's not going to go bankrupt, because they can and they will. Don't think you're not going to go through hard times, because you will, and God will allow a lot of that to happen. Just see how your faith is a lot of times. So we got to don't have a chip on our shoulder. It's not just you that's going through hard times. Not just you that's singled out. Everybody has our own battles that we fight every day. And it's just a matter about how we carry ourselves when we're handling those problems. Finding those solutions. Are we going to be the Antichrist? Or are we going to still be the same old person? Still going to be Aaron, day in, day out, dealing with this strut? That's what God looks at. Who are you in the dark? Who are you when the door's closed, when nobody's looking? That's what matters. That's when you really figure out what your moral compass is all about.